Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vickie Poole, and I'm a master transformational coach and hypnotist specializing in habit change. This podcast is sponsored by The Enlightened Peach and is all about embracing our mosaic life. And some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life anyway? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing, and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. I am your host, and today I have a special guest that I'll introduce in just a moment. But before I do, I would love for you to do me a solid. Make a comment on this episode, and remember to like, subscribe, and share, because I love sharing people's stories and having them have an outlet to do so. And the only way that we get this in front of more and more people is with your help. So go ahead, comment right below, comment. Remember to also like, subscribe, and share. So now let's get started. So this lovely lady here, I'm going to bring her out, is Shannon. Do you say it Farrar?
It's Farrar, like Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, okay. Shannon Farrar. I got you. I got you. And I will be honest, we don't really know each other. This is an amazing thing. I was just part of a Facebook group that I love these two ladies that are coaches in there, and they ask for podcasters to come in and allow their members to be able to share their stories out. And so Shannon comes from that group. And so we're just meeting today for the first time. So I'm going to let her just share who she is, and then I'll get started asking her some amazing questions, because since we don't know each other, this is our opportunity to do so. All right,
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Thanks, Vickie. This is so exciting. I love podcasting. It's so much fun. So I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure.
My name is Shannon Farrar. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. I just left my nonprofit career of 25 years to become a coach and a consultant. And I absolutely love coaching. I'm a wife, I'm a mom. I have 2 bio kids and 2 bonus kids. They're all grown. 3 dogs. Hopefully they will behave. You won't hear them. And I just really love that I am now able to live a life on my own terms. I love that the clock that I have to watch is my own. It's not for anybody else. And it's new. This just happened in the last couple of weeks. And I just feel so privileged that I get to take this leap. And I had posted on Facebook, I'm going to leap and the net will appear. And a friend of mine said, or maybe you'll find out you have wings.
Yes.
And so that is what I'm keeping in mind, is that I don't need a net. I'm going to find out that I have wings.
That's right.
Yeah, I studied English. I love to read and write and cook and take care of folks, and starting to learn to love to exercise a little bit. And my husband and I like to go see live music. That's kind of our thing. And learning new places around Charlotte. And we live in the Myrtle Beach area sometimes. So just
nice.
living that, kind of fun lifestyle. Like
that freedom lifestyle, right?
Yeah,
Beautiful,
absolutely.
beautiful. Well, I want to ask you some questions, because since we don't know each other, so when you were a kid, what did you want to be? Do you remember?
I wanted to be a writer.
Okay. All right. So did you do a lot of writing when you were young?
I did. When I was in 7th grade, I asked for a typewriter for Christmas, and immediately started writing really bad poetry.
I know how you feel. I used to write poetry when I was a kid too. There was a stream out in our backyard, and there was a log that had fallen across it. So I'd take my notebook out there and I'd sit on that log and just write the silliest poetry, but I loved it. And I saved those notebooks for a long time, and I don't know whatever the hell happened to them, but yeah, I'd love to go back and see what silliness I did write.
Yeah. And I kept up with poetry even after college, and I've tried to write a couple of different books and done some writing workshops and things here and there. Really, where I've landed is writing grants, and
Okay.
it seems like sometimes, especially during grant season, everything I write sounds like a grant. So I have to be careful where I use all my words.
Yes, yes.
Nobody wants to write a novel that sounds like a grant.
Well, maybe it's you don't mind writing it, but some people might not want to read it.
Right. That's yeah.
Yes. So are you writing now as you're doing this coaching and all that stuff?
I am finding myself able to write more creatively.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I got to work on another organization's impact report, and they're a brand new organization. So, trying to figure out, how we can talk about what they're doing in a way that shows their impact without having a long history of data. And that's really creative to me. But I haven't started writing any novels or poetry yet. I'm hoping with a little more time and a little more just feeling a little more secure. Like right now, I feel like I have to take every opportunity just in case another
Yeah.
one doesn't come. But I feel like that will even out over time.
Yeah, because you're really new to this freedom lifestyle, right?
Yes.
So it's one of those things that you still have the habits of being in that work environment and having to do certain things. It's a little hard to just relax and let it come to you, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah,
It's a little
yeah.
bit like taking off layer by layer. Like I've taken off the big overcoat and now I've still got on a kind of heavy sweater, but sooner or later, even the light sweater is going to be gone and I'm going to feel completely free.
Yep, yep, yep. You'll be a nudie. You'll have all the little stuff gone.
That's right.
That just sounds amazing, doesn't it?
I'm
Well,
in. That sounds fantastic.
yeah, yeah. And it's kind of like I refer a lot of times to Shrek because in Shrek he says, we're like onions, they're layers and everything. And a lot of times we forget that we take that outer layer off and then there we are, there's something else staring in our face.
Yep.
And so you got through college and you were trying to write when you were in college too, but
Yep.
were you trying to get like things published? What were you doing with your writing then?
I I majored in English and I really I love the idea of teaching college English. I found a
Okay.
couple of authors that I love that I felt like I could specialize in. And, I could see myself in academia. However, my parents went through a really awful financial time. And my childhood was not the best. There was a lot of neglect and some abuse, and both my parents were addicts. So um, there was there was some trauma there, and I was just figuring out that had been all the things that was going on. So I met someone and we clicked, and I thought he was wonderful and he thought I was wonderful. So we got married. And the thing that you learn when you get married really young is that everything has to be your priority. School needs to be your priority, but you also need a job that needs to be your priority. And you also have a new marriage that needs to be your priority. So I just had to find a job. And, looking back now, I can see that that's where really I let my dream of writing kind of go by the wayside because I didn't have time to wait for that publishing deal to happen. I didn't
Hmm.
have the luxury of writing for free and waiting for some money to come in. So I went a different way and I ended up in nonprofit, which I absolutely loved. Um,
Hmm.
that gentleman and I divorced about 10 years ago, and it was the best thing for both of us, I think. And in a new marriage now that's a little bit different in our priorities because we're older, we have more experience. We
And
have
better
luxury.
communication skills, I would
Oh yeah,
imagine.
absolutely. And I have the privilege of being able to do some work and wait for money to come in instead of just working a 9 to 5 job. So I can see that that's where I let that dream of being a writer go. Um,
Hmm.
but there was always a book in my mind on my laptop, even when we had little bitty kids and everything's crazy when you have little kids. I was still trying to find pockets of time to write. So there was a point that I just deliberately said, I'm not going to say that I'm a writer anymore. I'm going to focus on other things. And that's really when coaching came into my life. And I can see now that there could, that there's definitely a relationship between coaching and writing. So that may
Yeah.
come back. But, as I have more time and bandwidth and freedom, maybe I'll find another novel that needs to be written.
Yeah, yeah, maybe so. And if you're anything like me, because I've been, like I said, I did poetry when I was a kid, and when I was in high school, people used to pay me to write their creative writing papers because I loved doing it, and I would do mine, and then it was like I don't know what else to do. So then they say, "Hey, write mine, write mine." So I was writing papers for everybody all the time, and I loved it. And I had, over the years never had anything published, but I was constantly writing something. Like I've still got like spiral bound notebooks all in my closet of the beginnings of stories, right?
Mhm.
That I haven't finished. And right now I'm beginning to write a book too. And it's like, getting the process done. And so do you think back, I know we can't change things, but have you ever thought about, if you had kept the writing when you got married and started really pursuing it, if what would have happened if you'd stayed married and you were still able to have that space to write? Do you think that would have been something that you would have enjoyed, or do you still think that your grant writing stuff is what you would have enjoyed? Do you understand what I'm asking? Okay.
Absolutely. I think I would have enjoyed being a writer, a novelist, an author. Um, and, the environment that I work in now, working from home, having an office in my home, that's very similar to, how I would have approached writing novels.
Hmm.
And I wasn't sure that I would like it until the pandemic. And I found out I love working from home. I love having my own space and not being interrupted. I have terrible ADHD. I was just diagnosed about 3 years ago and still, learning how to manage it better than the coping skills I came up with over my
Right.
lifetime.
Yeah.
And one of them is I don't transition well. I need, I need to plan transitions. So being interrupted a lot makes it harder for me to focus. So, I think I would have liked that environment. I would have liked that process. What I don't know that I would have liked is the scrutiny that people get put under as they become more well known. As you put your work out into the world, you're really putting your heart out into the world, and people will just love it or they will tear it apart or both. And that would be really hard for me to see something that I had worked so hard on and, came from me almost like birthing a child.
Yeah, I was
That
just going to say that's almost like having a baby and somebody saying, "Damn, that baby's ugly."
exactly. Now I'm a big fan of Glennon Doyle, and one of the things that she says is, as an artist, whether that's musician, visual artist, or writer, you put the thing out of the world, and then that's where your responsibility ends. So
Hmm.
I wonder if I had heard that as a 22-year-old instead of a 52-year-old, if it would have resonated, and I would have been able to get over that fear a little bit.
Well, I'm a firm believer, like I say, we have our mosaic life, that all of the things that you did leading up till today were the things to prepare you for where you're at. So you might have been just blown off your rocker with some one little bad review or something back then, where now, especially if you're doing that, which is so popular now, the self-publishing and everything, then you get a fan base that really comforts you. I know I have a friend who's a writer. She writes romance novels. And I will say that when she and I first, because I worked with her a little bit as a coach, when we first started working together, she said she couldn't say she was a writer or an author. She said, "I don't have any books published." I said, "But they're in your head. So claim it and then do it." So she claimed it. And then after she claimed it and nobody laughed at her, she said, "This is pretty good." And she's now got, oh God, I don't know, 10 books, 8 books. I don't even know, maybe even more than that, because sometimes I can't keep track.
Right.
But it's interesting how we can talk ourselves out of so much, especially like you coming from a place where you didn't get that support from your family. And so you have to learn all those coping skills to get through And then you kind of probably, if you're anything like me, which I feel kind of like you might be a little bit, you're quite the people pleaser.
Yep.
Is that right? Yes,
Yep.
yes. And it's funny how I could tell that with you, right?
I probably just have it stamped on my forehead that you
I
can't see
think
it.
it's when you are one, you can tell one, you
Yeah.
know? It's my people pleasing radar.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So knowing that, it's really easy to walk away from your dreams because you want to make sure everybody's happy.
Yep.
Because what I did was I got married on my 19th birthday and I was in college. I quit college because I was married and I had to have a job and all that stuff. And a few years after I got divorced, I was telling someone that I quit college to get married, and they looked at me and they said, but why could you not do both? It never occurred to me. It was just seemed like that was the step. So we do things all the time that it's just like looking back, it's like, why didn't I even consider, something else? It's just strange how life works out, right?
Right. And, I look back on that time and with all the things my parents were going through, and as I was figuring out like what the dynamics of my family had been, I really, marriage was a way to escape in a way. Like, I won't ever have to live in that house again. I won't, I can pick my own holiday traditions. I don't have to be beholden to them anymore. And I love my parents and I took care of them until their last days. But at the same time, as I was figuring out what our family dynamic had been and how that had really affected and damaged me, I wanted to escape. And
Hmm.
I think my ex husband also has some things he wanted to escape, and we were convenient places for each other to escape to.
Yeah, yeah. And for the time it was beautiful because it gave you both such a space, like you said, to escape. And it's like the thing that people say is that relationship people anyway. They say, that some people are there to teach you something, some people are there to fill a need that you have at the moment. Not
Mhm.
everybody's meant to be in your life forever. And I think some ways that's kind of comforting to me to
Yep,
realize that the relationships that didn't work out, oh man, they weren't supposed to. They were just there to teach me something. So now it's my job to figure out what the hell am I supposed to have learned from that?
exactly. And then when you don't learn it the first time, it'll
Oh
come
yeah.
back to you.
It comes
You'll get to
back
try
and it
again.
gets you. Yeah, yeah. So you said you have how many children?
I have two biological children and two bonus children. My two
So you
step
got four. You got
got
four.
four.
So and they're in college now?
So our oldest is out of college and married and working at the university that she went to, and she absolutely loves it. The next oldest is graduating from college in May and going to grad school. And the next oldest is finishing up community college and figuring out what he wants to do after that. And then the youngest is also graduating college in May and deciding between now and Friday which law school he's going to go to.
Wow. So you have been the major uh, breaker of lineage from what your parents had going on, and then you passing that on. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of the time when someone goes through somebody that has parents that are addicts and all of those things are going, it's really remarkable when they can create a space in their life to grow and become something that is like breaking the bonds
Yeah.
of that stuff, right?
And sometimes I think I swung too far the other way. My mom was very strict, and that the house had to be perfectly clean, and if I made a 98 on something, my dad wanted to know where the other 2 points went, and everything was just like what is the lack here? What did you not do right? And I just didn't want that environment for my kids. I didn't want to live in that environment anymore. Just like when I got a dog, I was like, I'm not fighting with this dog to not be on the furniture. So
Yeah.
we get a dog, the dog's allowed wherever it wants to be. And like having kids, my kids are going to be treated with respect, even though they're children. And so when my kids were 5 and 7, my ex-husband, he and I were still together at that time. He got transferred to another city that's about 700 miles away. And we ended up, it was in 2008, which was the absolute worst time in the world to try to sell a house.
Mm-hmm.
So our house was on the market for almost a year. We had 3 showings.
Oh, wow.
Eventually,
Definitely different today. Isn't
yeah.
it?
When we finally sold that house, we sold it in 24 hours and had 15 offers. It was insane. But at that time, it wasn't going to sell, and we ended up deciding to live separately but still be together. So my 2 kids and I had to really create a community amongst the 3 of us. We had to take care of each other. I had a full-time job. They were both in school. We tried to do activities. We tried to have fun weekends. And we just really had to have a little bit more equality amongst the 3 of us than most moms and kids have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is good in some ways, because they could understand when I said, we're not going to, mom is beat. We're not going to do that. Or, it's 3 days before payday. Do we have to get new shoes today? They had a little bit more knowledge than maybe most kids do about those sorts of things. But at the same time, they had some say in the decisions that we made. And it was a little bit more democratic. And they have turned out to be great kids. And I'm so proud of them. They're just really amazing. And I think I got lucky in a lot of it. They raised themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's not usually luck. It's you gave them the safe place to land for everything that they needed to do. And like, I don't know if you've ever read the book Creating Innovators.
I haven't, but that
You
sounds.
have It is an amazing book, and it's all about kids that are given permission to be like that, to be different, and how some teachers and people come and they help them to think outside of the box and do things differently. And it sounds like, whether you intended to or not, that's what you gave your kids. So that's quite the blessing. And I had someone on my podcast not too long ago, and she she's not a homeschool parent, she's an unschool parent. So they don't go to traditional schools, they don't do the traditional homeschool stuff, but she teaches them life skills, and she teaches them all different kinds of things. And they're even like you said, they're able to explore, the things in their lives and see what they really want to do and stuff. So it sounds like yours had both the schooling and the unschooling. And so that's a gift. So I want you to give yourself a major pat on the back, because without even knowing it, you set something in place that's remarkable.
And they're, both of my kids are part of the LGBT community. And that was something that we worked through together. And I remember watching The Voice.
My daughter as well. So
okay. Yeah. So we're among friends. So I remember watching The Voice, and someone told their coming out story. And my kids they were still elementary school. They were like, Mom, what's coming out? And I said, well, okay, yeah. This is going to be a longer answer than you're hoping for. So I explained, like, when someone is, wants to be with a person of the same gender, then they're called gay. And when they tell people that that's what they want, it's called coming out. But let me tell you, that's not a big deal to me. I don't want you to feel like you have to come out. Just be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Just love who you love. We don't need a big coming out story.
Right.
You just need to know that I'm going to love you no matter what happens. Even if you're straight, I'm still going to love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really didn't want that to be another traumatic thing for them. If that's it, if that was what happened, where they ended up. I had so many gay friends. I worked in HIV for 25 years. So I had so many gay friends who experienced so much trauma in their family.
Oh, yeah.
And their worship communities and friends and schools. I was not going to have that for my children. And so when my son let me know that he was trans, the conversation I had with everybody, from acquaintances on Facebook to the grandparents, was, this is who this child is. This is how this child will be referred to. And if you don't like it, we will not be associating. And
beautiful. Yeah.
Some grandparents were okay with it and some weren't.
Yeah.
that's a choice that they made. That was a boundary that we set, and they can feel however they want to feel, but we don't have to engage. So
Right.
it's not always easy, but I love my kids so much, and the world is hard, and school is hard, and life is hard, and they're all going to have student loans, and they don't need to be fighting their family too for acceptance.
Right. Yeah. It's an adjustment though, because my daughter's is gay, but I have a friend of mine that his child is transgender. And the thing is that I knew this child as his original sex, right? And then as he's transitioned, I have to think really hard before I say how, to ask how they're doing and everything. All of a sudden I have to register, what's the name, and change it. But I actively make sure I do that because I want to be very respectful of that. But my daughter, when she was in middle school, she said, "Mom, what would you say if I said I didn't really like boys, I liked girls?" And I said, "Well," I said, "how do you know?" And she said, "Well, I just know." And I said, "Have you had sex before?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Then how do you know?" She said, "I just know." And I said, "Okay, that's good. We're okay with it." And fortunately for me, I've grown up with hairstylists. My family was all hairstylists, so being around a lot of gay people in the hair salon industry is pretty normal, right?
Yeah.
And so it was easy for all of the family to come on board and not have anything to say about it. So it was beautiful. But I know not everybody has that experience, and it's really sad that people have to hide or feel that they have to hide who they are. And so I know this is taking a different turn, but we go on the road that we're led, right?
It's life, right? Like you said, every decision that you've made throughout your entire life has landed you in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And every experience that you've had, every relationship that you've had has landed you in this place, in this time with these people, in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is brutal. It's beautiful and brutal because one different decision could have changed everything.
Yeah.
And that could be wonderful or that could be terrible. If I hadn't married who I married first, I wouldn't have these kids.
Yeah. Well, it's like for me,
I can't imagine.
I know.
Without them. So,
I've had a lot of people on my podcast that have had like very horrific things that happened to them. And the amazing thing is when I first started this podcast, it was so I could have a voice and I could not squash what I was wanting to say, right? I could just say anything because it was my damn show, right? And I started out just talking me. And then I had a couple of guests and I realized that I love hearing their stories because my very first guest was had diabetes and had his leg amputated. And he said the best thing that ever happened to him was having that amputation because it changed his whole life. The path he was on, what his desires were, and who he became. And he never would have done that without it. And I started realizing that every person I had on, no matter how horrible something was that happened to them, they all felt that way in the end. That if they loved who they are now, and so they wouldn't change that. Because they wouldn't be who they are. And I love that about people and their resilience and their ability to bounce back and find the joy in whatever has come, right? And so it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I know you're what does it say? The founder of Full Circle, Full Circle Life and Health Coaching. So what is Full Circle Life and Health Coaching?
It is much like you described yourself, transformational coaching.
Okay.
As I went through the coaching program that I was in, I came
Where did you go, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, I did Health Coach Institute.
Oh, I did too.
Okay. I did the mastery program.
Yeah, me too.
So what really stood out to me from that
I
whole
knew
program,
I liked you for some reason. We've been bouncing around in the same circles and didn't even know it.
My people.
Yeah.
Was that change can't stick if you don't change your identity. If you don't step into the identity of the new person that you want to be, and that goes for anything as small as drinking more water, and as big as burning your life down and starting over. If you don't
Yeah.
step into the identity of who it is that you are dreaming of being, you'll never make that change last. And that's what really got me. That was the thing that resonated the most, because I can give you a diet plan, I can give you an exercise plan, you can call me every day and tell me if you walked, you can send me pictures of your plate, but none of that's going to stick. Believe that you are the person that does that thing. If you don't believe you're a runner, if you don't believe you're a writer, if you haven't shifted your identity to say I'm an in control diabetic,
Yeah.
then that changes stick. You're going to get stressed out. You're going to go on vacation. You're going to change jobs. You're going to move. Something's going to happen in your life, and it's going to be really easy to revert back to where you were.
Yeah.
But if you change your identity, and within your own mind, your own self, you know, I am a person who walks every day. I am a person who keeps my house uncluttered. I am
Yeah.
not that person. I aspire to be that person, but I'm not there yet. And
It's a
the other
goal.
thing, right, very aspirational.
Yeah.
But the other thing I found as I was working with my practice clients was that at the root of every single issue people brought me was connection. Even decluttering. The decluttering clients that I worked with, it was, I want my kitchen table to be clean. Okay, why? Because I want to eat dinner with my family. Okay, why? Because they're so busy all the time and we never sit down to eat. Okay, why is that important? At the end of that questioning is, I want to be connected.
Yeah.
At the end of, I want to make $1 million so I can take care of my family, so that we can be connected. So many things are. I'm getting chills, because I know that this is where the transformation happens, is when people realize that at the core of what they want is connectivity, and to have their people, and to feel like they belong to something. And when folks figure that out, they can reach the stars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I love so much about coaching, is seeing that light bulb moment.
Yeah, me as well. And I did the mastery program with them as well. The life coaching, the health coaching, all of that. And then I went on and got some 5 certifications in hypnosis, just to do a little bit more, but as coaches, and you're probably this way too, it's like something happens and it's like, oh, I want to know more about that. And
Yeah.
then you have another tool that you add into your toolbox. And then you see something else, or somebody mentions something. Oh, I got to get that book. I got books out the wazoo
Yeah.
here, because somebody will mention one and it's like, I immediately go and order it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, when you're in this place of being of service to people in this way, in the coaching environment, it's like you're constantly in this open space of, what else can I learn to help these people, to
Yeah.
help me and help these people, right?
Right.
So it's a beautiful thing. I am just so grateful for the coaching industry and being able to do this.
And one thing I love is, I'm also a great believer in therapy. I've been in therapy for a decade and a half, figuring all this stuff out. And for me, therapy is really going back and figuring out what has, what happened that made you feel this way or react this way or whatever. Coaching is, how do I move forward with this?
Mm-hmm.
As a coach, I'm not trying to fix anybody's past. I don't even really want to dig into anybody's past. I want to know, how can we take you from where you are right now today to the place you want to be. And
Yeah.
so I think that there is room in most people's lives for therapy and for coaching.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, how do people find you and work with you? And I will just tell everybody that's listening or watching that I am going to have on this podcast, I'll have in the description, I'll have all the links so that you can reach out to Shannon and however she has available. And then I'll have my information so you can reach out to me as well. So, how can, just go ahead and tell them, for the people that are listening and may not be able to see what's up there.
Sure. My website is fullcirclelifeandhealthcoaching.com. Unfortunately, when you come to the web game late, you get a really long web address. Um, but you can also find me on Facebook, Full Circle Life and Health Coach, and I'm on TikTok, same at Full Circle Life and Health Coach, and Instagram. I had to put a dot between every word: full.circle.life.health.coach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Mine has dashes in between, or
yeah.
underscore. Yeah.
But on my website, you'll see all the things that I love. I love to work with people on. I also have a podcast, and I would love for folks to sign up to be a guest if they're interested. And I am starting last Monday of the month group called Goal Getters, for those of us who need a little accountability as we start new things. And I chose the last Monday of the month so that we set ourselves up for success for the next month. And then we, kind of review and make sure we've met our benchmarks that we set for ourselves during the past month. And that's free. And then, of course, I'm happy to do discovery calls with folks, see if we're a good fit. And,
So who do you primarily work with?
Primarily, I work with people. It usually turns out to be women who are on the cusp of transformation, who maybe they just got a chronic illness diagnosis, and they're figuring out, how am I going to integrate this into my life? They're about to be empty nesters, and maybe they're in a 5-year marriage like me. Maybe they're in a 30-year marriage, and oh my God, we're all we have now.
Yeah.
we have to figure this out. Who am I going to be for the second half of my life? Maybe also, like me, you blow up your career and you decide to do something completely different. And that can be really scary and really daunting. But the reason I did it is because I want to be connected to people. Coaching lets me connect with people in a really deep, authentic way that I haven't found in any other job, any other hobby, anything. Coaching just brings people together, and unless you have this very real, very deep connection long enough to get a thing done. And I think that that's just amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Coaching to me is not only connection, but it's being able to lift people higher than they ever believed they could be.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's in their financial, their spiritual, their physical, whatever it is, we have the ability to help them see themselves in a different way
Yeah.
and move in that direction. So it's amazing. And every time I get in front of a new client, or even a client that I've been working with, I get this excited feeling, I get to work, I get to do this, I get to help them, I get to work on this. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I remember as I worked with practice clients and a few paid clients, as I was finishing up my training and still working a 9-to-5 job, I would come home from my job, which I loved, exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would coach for 2 or 3 hours, and I would go downstairs just like wired, so energized. And I was like, listen, I need to pay attention to this. This is something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a clear indicator,
Yep.
because I end up, if I'm doing clients later in the evening, I find that it's like, oh, I'm so up that I got to do something to calm me down so I can sleep,
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's great. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us. And I didn't even know I had so much connection with you, so that's even more beautiful.
Yep.
But before we go, in case because our time was really short, and how is there anything that I didn't ask you that you feel like you would like to share with everybody? Last words, inspirations, or anything before we leave?
That's a great question. I just want people to think about what brought them joy when they were children, and how can you incorporate that into your life now. For me, I love to swim and I love gymnastics. I can't be doing gymnastics now, but I'm finding ways to swim, get back in the water, and just connect to that part of me that really loved that freedom of being weightless in the water. So when you're looking for joy and you're looking for things that make you happy, I think so many of us are just in the grind and we forget what joy looks like. But think about what made you happy as a kid, the things that you did that just were in the flow. You just didn't even think about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing for me was riding my bike. I love to go bike riding around the neighborhood. And I didn't think how many miles am I riding or how fast am I going or how many calories am I burning. I just
Yeah.
knew to get anywhere I wanted to go. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking back to those things as kids that were joyful and authentic for us, I think we can find a lesson there on how to have more joy in our lives now.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm going to turn that on you really quick if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, one of the things you said gave you joy when you were younger was writing.
Yep.
And so I just ask you to start writing, even if it's something little bitty small. Maybe it's only a half a page a day, but start writing and activate that thing in you that you, when you were talking about the writing, you could see you light up a little bit more. So I ask you to go ahead and take your own advice and sit down and begin that writing journey.
Okay. You got it.
Okay.
That was
Yay.
time for sure.
Yeah, and not to put you on the spot, but it was like that, that just felt like the right thing to say. So I can't wait to see your first book published.
Thank you.
And
I
so
have,
you'll have,
I know what the cover will look like. I
all
just
right.
I just got to put the words in it.
That's right. Well, that's that, you got the cover, the rest of it's gravy. So,
That's right.
um, so just remember, I'm going to have all your information in the description. And so as soon as you get your book published, all you have to do is give me a link and I share it in the comments.
Thank you. That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to happen.
Yes.
Declare it. That's it.
I can see it.
Beautiful, beautiful. I can't wait to read it and see it. And so I'm going to leave everybody with the words that I always leave with, and that is the best way to predict the future is create it. So what are you creating? And with that, I will say, mwah.